Hi. In this video, we are going to discuss, as a startup, we have to have a discussion like, should I be choosing this language or should I be choosing this language, because my product is going to depend on it. So this video is specifically for all the CTOs, or I should say CXOs, or the startup founders who are wondering, should they be using Node.js or should they be using PHP, because this is going to be a very important question, maybe 2 years, 3 years down the line. So we have to understand if I'm going to use a particular stack. Now, I'm not going to discuss about MERN stack, mean stack. I'm not going to discuss about LEM stack, or I'm not going to discuss about Laravel or maybe something like that. I'm just going to discuss, if you're going to choose a specific language like Node.js or PHP, what are the complications? We are going to compare them on various things. So let's get started. Okay, now let's first of all focus on what is happening in the Google Trends. So you can see I have made a query, learn Node.js and learn PHP. Now you can see, if we talk about PHP from last 5 years, the curve is actually going down. The curve is actually going down, and if we talk about Node.js, it is somewhere here, but yes, now it is gradually picking up. Now, what does that mean? It simply means that this specific language, if I talk about Node.js, is gaining popularity. A lot of videos you can see on YouTube, a lot of tutorials you can see, they are now more focused towards the language of Node.js and making applications using Node.js compared to PHP. So this is what is happening in the Google Trends for these languages if we compare them. Okay, now let's cross verify our analysis from Stack Overflow. So this is the current status of PHP if we talk about. So there were 230 questions asked today, and 1216 questions were asked this particular week. If we compare to Node.js, 232 questions were asked today and 1255 questions were asked this week. Now what does that mean? It simply means the lot of developers who are using these languages, obviously if they have some confusion, they have some questions related to that language, they are going to ask this question. So you can see these languages are going neck on neck, but if I have to give my analysis, PHP is actually going down for a very specific reason. Node.js is fairly a new language and it is actually competing head on head. So you can understand where the trend is moving in this particular website. Okay, now how we are going to compare these both languages? So we are going to compare based on the age, application type, traffic, client side and server side, real-time data application, resources, security, scalability, speed, community and training. Now why we have taken these points? Because apart from that, there are more points available. These are the questions which, as a startup founder, as a CTO or as a small company, we have to ask, like, what are the different advantages or disadvantages of comparison we are going to get with Node.js or PHP. So these are the points on which we are going to compare these languages. Okay, now first of all, the point which we want to discuss is age. If we talk about PHP, you can see PHP is fairly, I would say, it's a very old language. Okay, so what happens, like, PHP has some components which are not required, but yes, they are integral part of PHP, which is actually making it bit worrisome, if I may, compared to Node. But if we talk about Node in comparison is actually new, and it has all the required features which are required for the modern day applications. Now obviously, if your applications are data centric, Node.js is the solution for you, because of course that supports, like, it has the capabilities to support real-time data applications, which we are going to discuss. But if we talk about, and if we have to compare based on the age, I would not comment that since PHP is the one of the older language here, it is going to have the advantage compared to Node. So here we are going to say Node.js is winner in the criteria of age. Okay, now the second question is, what kind of applications we can create with these languages? So if we talk about PHP, since PHP is a dynamic language, we can only create applications which are dynamic, sort of data centric applications. But if we talk about Node, we have three options. We can create a static, SOAP based and RESTful based application. So here you can see that we are getting the advantage of three types of applications. So here we have Node.js as the winner. Okay, now if my startup is going to scale, I'm going to have massive traffic. What do I want to do? Should I be using something or should I be not using something? This has actually happened with us. We were using a certain stack. I'm not going to name it, but yes, we were facing some challenges. So the question is, if I'm going to get the speed, or I should say, if I'm going to get the traffic, what is the scenario there? So in comparison to here, PHP is a synchronous application. That means every request, when it is raised, it has to be completed. After that, only new request is going to be completed. But this is different for Node. Node is async. That means you can handle multiple requests. You don't have to wait for that request to complete. This means if we are going to have a huge traffic, it is going to be Node which is going to have a better performance compared to PHP. Now I want to mention one thing. This video does not talk about the server, how we are managing the server and how our infrastructure is there. We are just discussing about the comparison of languages, which is Node and PHP, and we are assuming that the infrastructure is same for both the languages when we are comparing them. Okay. Now comes the part of client side and the server side. Obviously, my application will have two sides. We are talking about the web applications primarily. So what is going to happen with Node, if I talk about, I don't have to learn multiple languages. You only need JS for the backend as well as the front end, because Node is ultimately JavaScript, and in the front end you are going to ultimately use JavaScript irrespective of the framework. But when we talk about PHP, I have to learn two languages. One is PHP for the backend and one is JavaScript for the front end. Now, you can find a lot of developers who will say, okay, I have the expertise of PHP, I have the expertise of JavaScript. But if you can find someone who has the expertise of JavaScript, you can actually have a better application development when you're going to use Node compared to PHP, because again, in PHP you have to learn two languages. You have to make sure that you know the two languages, and if not, you have to hire people who know both the languages. But if we talk about Node, you just have to hire someone who understands and knows JavaScript. Okay, these days real-time data applications are the requirement. Now, if we want to create real-time data-based application, what is the right language for me? So if we talk about PHP misses some inbuilt capabilities. Obviously, the updated versions are getting upgraded, but yes, if we talk about real-time data applications, PHP is actually missing out. But we compare it with Node. Node has some inbuilt capabilities which support real-time data applications, which is going to be a very big factor maybe 2 years, 3 years down the line. So you have to understand what is the right language you have to use, and in this scenario where we are comparing real-time data applications, Node.js is actually the winner here. Okay, if my now startup is going to grow, I have to hire resources, I have to hire people who can actually work on this particular product. What then? If we talk about PHP here, the resources, or I should say developers, are in every single corner of the world. You can talk about small town, you can talk about big town, but yes, this is the story. You can find PHP developers everywhere because this language is quite old. But if we talk about Node.js, they are not yet available in every single corner of the world. So you have to understand, if your startup is going to be in a particular location which has lack of Node.js developers, this could be a deciding factor. Again, I'm not comparing that we can hire the remote work, but we have to understand if the resources are not available. Obviously, as a founder, it will be very difficult for you to maintain the application, or I should say if your team size is smaller, it is going to be very difficult for you. So you have to understand, in this scenario, PHP is actually a winner here. Okay, now the next question is about the security, and I want to mention here, there is no winner, there is no loser, because both the languages are are secure, because obviously since they are open source application, they get the rigorous update, and whatever vulnerabilities are there, they get updated. So we have to understand, in terms of security, I cannot comment that PHP is not better or maybe Node.js is not better, because these both applications are maintained and are being rigorously supported by the big organizations. So we have to understand these both the languages are secured. Okay, now my startup is growing. It is scaling. What about the scalability? Can I scale my application using the specific language of PHP or Node.js? Now, I did mention that in the traffic scenario where Node.js was better, the same scenario is going to work here. PHP is actually not good for scaling up the application, or I should say the application which is going to scale. So you have to have some other supporting languages to make sure that your application scales. But if we talk about Node.js, it is going to have those capabilities with which you can actually have scalability for your applications in the longer run. So we have to understand, if we are building a product, if that product is going to be let's say 5 years, it is going to be used for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, we have to understand that Node.js is actually clearly a winner here, because it has the capabilities which is going to support the scalability which is required by the modern day application for the longer run. Okay, if someone comes to my application, what kind of an experience they are going to have? Again, I want to mention one thing. We are considering that we are using the ideal scenario here, ideal infrastructure, or I should say similar infrastructure. We don't have something smaller for PHP or maybe greater for Node.js. If we compare at the ideal infrastructure, we can see that PHP is going to be a bit slower. compared to Node.js, because again, PHP has some capabilities, or I should say has some missing features which are required to make that application a modern day faster application. So here we have clearly a winner of Node.js. Okay, I'm stuck now. What should I do? I need help from the community, and where does these languages stand? So if we talk about, since PHP is one of the older languages here, it has a larger community, or I should say it has a huge community. But if we talk about Node, now Node is fairly a new language, I would say, but the community compared to PHP is bit smaller. So here the winner is PHP. Now the second advantage you get with the community, now since a lot of people are available, they will have a huge amount of experience which can actually help you maintain or maybe make the application better. So we have to understand, a lot of people have the experience in PHP because it is an older language, but comparing to Node.js, here Node.js is actually lacking. Okay, now one of the most important point for the company is, can I train my people so that they can work on this product? Well, the answer is training, because obviously we have to train these employees. So we have to understand where we are standing. So if we talk about PHP, now since PHP is an older language, it has a massive collection of tutorials, learning experiences, or I should say things which are related to PHP. But if we talk about Node.js, it is fairly new. I would not it is not worth comparing, but yes, Node.js has right now comparatively lesser amount of tutorials for learning. So we have to understand in this scenario as well, PHP is actually winning here compared to Node.js because of the age, like since it is an older language. So that is it for PHP versus Node.js. I hope you understood. The whole idea of making this video was to make sure that if you are a startup founder who is just starting a new product and they are making a new product, if you're a SaaS founder, you have to understand these are the things which are going to constantly bother you for next 2 years down the line. So we hope that this video is going to actually make it worth it, and you will be able to understand how and where these languages are standing. Obviously, if you have some questions, put them in the comment. And if you need some technical consultation or maybe help from one of our experts, well, obviously reach us so that we can support you.